Hello everyone, this is Arav and I welcome you all to the Python tutorial for absolute beginners. In this session, we'll see about what is exactly a programming language, about the basics of Python, and how to install Python and Visual Studio Code, and in the end, we'll write some program by ourselves and learn by doing. So without wasting any further time, let's jump right into it. First of all, what is a programming language? A programming language is nothing but a language, just like Hindi, English, Dutch, French, etc. Unfortunately, our computer does not understand any of these language. It only understands one language, that is of zeros and ones, also known as the binary language. But thank God, we have programming languages to help us out to communicate with computers and give instructions to it. And now you may ask, why learn Python? Python is one of the most easiest language and a beginner friendly language to learn. Also, it has such a versatile use and it's a very high in demand language. You can do machine learning with Python, you can make AI models, you can do web development, game development, you can do almost anything with Python. Now you got your answer why to learn Python. Now let's start by installing Python and Visual Studio Code. So I want you to open a browser. For instance, I'll open Chrome. And type Python download or python.org/downloads. Then you will be directed to this page. Now hold on. Don't click on this install button. Here's the quick tip. Do not install the latest version. You may ask me why? Doesn't it have new features? Yes, it does. But latest versions always come with a ton of bugs and it becomes hectic sometimes to deal with them. So the best option is to download the older versions. So we'll scroll down a bit and over here you can see all the older versions of the Python. So I'll install a older version of Python just to show you, but I recommend you can go with Python 3.10. That's because it's one of the most stable Python versions I have seen so far. So I'll go with Python 3.7 just to show you the installation process. And there we go. Now once you come to this page, now you need to select the file accordingly to your operating system. So currently I am using Windows 64-bit version, so I'll install Windows installer executable 64-bit installer. So we need to wait for a few seconds, and until it downloads, let me tell you a thing. Python is a high-level programming language, and you might be thinking, what is a high-level programming language? But hold on, I cannot answer it right here, right away. You will not understand. I'll tell you when we write code. Okay, so we'll show it in folder, the folder version, just to show you. As you can see, now on your screen you can see an option, add Python 3.5 to path. 3.5, this will show your version, so you can install Python 3.10. I'm just showing this for your understanding. So you need to click on add Python 3.5 to path or whatever version it is, and then click on customize installation and make sure all of them are checked. Go to next and everything looks fine. Go click on install. That's it. I'll cancel it out because I already have Python 3.10. So that's how you can install Python. And before installing Visual Studio Code, I want to show you the basic interface of Python. You go to search bar and type ideally. After installation, you can see the Python shell. Now, this isn't the main programming interface which we use for programming, and in fact you cannot even program on this. That's because it executes code line by line. That means you cannot run the program as a whole. Let me just show you. As you can see, it runs line by line, and we do not want this. We want the whole program to run as a whole. So also, you may use this IDE as well. If you click on File, New File, then you can program it here, just like this. It's just a text editor, just like a text editor. But we do not use this. We are going to use Visual Studio Code. That because it makes job very easy. Yes, it makes job very easy. Let me show you. No. You simply type VS Code install, and there you go. And now be careful, do not install Visual Studio. Visual Studio is different from Visual Studio Code. They are two different things, okay? So just simply click on the first link, download Visual Studio, select your operating system and hit enter. And in Visual Studio Code, it's absolutely free, and also you can code 1,000+ languages on Visual Studio Code. It supports almost every type of language, and it's very lightweight as well. I already have the Visual Studio Code installed, so I'll cancel it out, and there we go. The installation of Visual Studio Code is straightforward. You can just hit run and then next and next and next. It should install properly. Just click on I accept the agreement, hit enter, go to next, next. Click the desktop icon if you want, but I'll go with next, next, and install. Wait for a few seconds. And also I want to tell you a special feature about Visual Studio Code, that is you can install extensions, and they help you a lot while programming. And I'll also recommend some of the extension which you can install that will help you code a lot faster and at a better pace. So install, finish, and then just put the tab. Okay. Here we go. Visual Studio Code. So this is the interface of Visual Studio Code. Let me introduce about it a bit. So on the right hand side, I'll show you the main features which you are going to use for now. So when you start Visual Studio Code for the first time, it means when you click on this icon, and let me just close the folder just to show you. Yeah. When you click on this icon, see it says open a folder, and now over here you need to choose a folder where you want your files to be stored. Click on open folder. Now I have a tutorial in my app, so I select that. And there we go. That's how you select a folder in Visual Studio Code. And over here, if you click on this icon, you can make a file, and if you click on this icon, you can make a folder. So first of all, we'll make a Python file. You can name anything like tutorial1.py. .py is the extension for a Python file. All your Python files will end with the name of the file, then .py, as it is an extension. Simply hit enter and your Python file is ready. Now you can program over here. Also, if you want to create a folder, just click on this icon and you can create a folder. Just name it out. We can name it like tutorial. And over here you can see the folder. Now you can move the file in this folder. You can see now it's inside this folder. And if you see the folder in Explorer, you can see the folder which we created. Let's see over here. Search. There we go. There we go. Tutorial. Over here we created the folder and we can see it over here. Now let me introduce to the extensions tab. Over here you can install extension and they really help you while programming. So some of the extensions you need to install are: number one, Python. So the first one by Microsoft. Simply click install. I've already installed, so it's showing me to install, but for you it will be install and releases. And after this, install Pylance, CE. There we go. Pylance. Just install this as well, and there's also an extension called Intuitor. Let me check. Then I suppose I might have already installed Intuitor. Yeah, I've already installed Intuitor. Install this extension as well. And now when you are done with installing extensions, I want to show you another feature of Visual Studio Code. That is, there it is. You go over here and yeah, it's over here. My window is small. Click on New Terminal. You can directly access your terminal from Visual Studio Code, and that helps a lot. And for some of you who might not know what a terminal is basically a window, and you can directly give commands and you can literally control your whole computer with this small window. You can also open it by Windows plus R, then CMD, then hit enter. You can also terminal like this, but it's much better using Visual Studio Code, as you'll be a lot more productive. So we'll just close this and create a new terminal. Just click on this plus icon and there you have it, a new terminal. Also, if you click on this drop down box, you can see the different terminals you can use. So I like to use command prompt, so you can use command prompt. So yeah, this was about the terminal. And now if you look at the top, you see option called file. Over here they are the basic, like save as. You can click on auto save so that your code auto saves and you do not need to press Ctrl S every time. And yeah, you can close your folder and you can open your folder. You can make a new text file, but you can always make a new text file from over here. But certainly, if you don't want to click the button every time, there is a shortcut for that. That is new window, shift control N, new file, control alt Windows N, new text file, control N. And now, one of the most important section, as I said, it is terminal. You can click on new terminal. You can click on split terminal. Split terminal, basically it will open a split terminal, as you can see. Next is run button. Though we are not going to use this run button, we are going to use this button. And if you are not seeing this button, then that means you haven't installed Python extension. So just install it and you should be seeing this button. And also you can set it to debug Python file and run Python file. So what is debugging? So debugging is basically running your Python file line by line or part by part so that you can find where the error lies. And it becomes very important because as a programmer you face a lot of errors, and when you're writing a code of 1000 to 1000 lines, it becomes very hard to find that error. So debugging helps a lot. So now the basic setup, now you have a coding window. Also you can always use your terminal by clicking shift and then right click, shift and then right click, and show more options. There you go. You can have terminal over here. I don't know why it's in Hindi, but it will be in English only for you. I might have changed some settings. Okay, now that you have installed your VS Code, and also before continuing, you need to select your Python interpreter. Match. Oh, it's already selected. That's why. So these are the interpreters I have: Python 3.10, the latest version, and Python 3.9. You can select any of the versions which you like. I'll go with the latest one, the second latest one actually. And now, before directly going to Python programming, I want to introduce you about some terminal prompts which will be very useful for you. So let's open terminal. Now I'll tell you the basic Python prompts which you will be using in your day-to-day life. So first one is pip. Type pip in the command prompt. It's selected as PowerShell. I'll open command prompt. There we go. So now type pip and hit enter. Command prompt and PowerShell are basically same, but I prefer command prompt for some reason. And now when you type pip, if you see something like this, then congratulations, you have successfully installed Python. But if you do not see like this, then no worries, just install Python and reinstall it, and make sure this time you check that little checkbox over here which said add Python to path. That's it. And now over here you can see some commands which you can use with pip, like install, download, uninstall, and these are basically the main commands which you're gonna use. Install means you can directly install a package from internet by using the command in your command prompt. How cool is this? Then is download. So the difference between install and download is download basically installs the file, but you cannot still use it because it do not actually installs in your global environment. But over here, install downloads the file, downloads the package or library, and installs in the global environment. You are confused what is a global environment. So a global environment is, you can, if you install something in a global environment, you can use it anywhere in your computer. But if you're using a virtual environment, if you install a specific version in a virtual environment, then you might have a version 3.5 running in a virtual environment of a package, but you can still use the version 3.7 which is in your global environment. So that's how it works. Now to use these commands, you can type pip install and a package name. For instance, let's suppose pandas. And if you forget any of the commands, you can just type pip and you can get the commands which you can use. And if you do not know the package name, then no worries. Let me tell you how we programs identify what package we need. So if you are doing machine learning, so what are the necessary condition packages for machine learning? It would be TensorFlow, PyTorch and all those things, but I'll show you. And that's how you get what you need to install. And now to install this, it's very simple. If you do not know the exact package name, then you can simply type pip install. Let's suppose you're installing TensorFlow, hit enter. You will find a website called PyPy over here, and you can basically copy it from over here of the clipboard and directly paste it in your VS Code and hit enter. It probably install. I'm not installing it because it's a very large file, so Control C. Also, if you want to stop a program or stop any command, just press Control C. It will break. So this is about the pip. And now you might be wondering, after we have installed these packages, how we are gonna use them in our program. So we need to import them, just like import and export business. In export, you export your goods from you to another country, and import, you import or bring some goods from other countries to your country. So if you type import, let's suppose random as RL. Import random means you are basically importing this random module to your code. Also remember, if you are importing a library, it increases the size of the program. So make sure about that. After you have imported random, you can use as. Now you might be wondering, what is as? So they are libraries which have very big name like TensorFlow. So you do not want to use TensorFlow again and again multiple times in your program. So you can import libraries and give them a short form or an abbreviation, like import random as rn. Now your whole program you can use rn dot, let's see the available function. And the good thing about Visual Studio Code is it shows you all the available functions which you can use, just like this. As you can see, now before jumping into the Python code, I want to introduce you to data types in Python. What are data types in Python? So the first data type is integer, and you might be thinking about 1, 2, 3, 4 and negative numbers and 0. Yes, it is same in Python. It's just simple 1, 2, 3, negative 23, whatever it is, 0, whatever it is, they are known as integer. And The next data type is string. String is you can see the ABCD, the text part. So ABCD, anything here, any name, water, America, India. It's a string, it's a name. And then you have Boolean. Boolean are nothing but true and false. People also call Boolean as bool, which is basically nothing but true and false. Also, Python is a high level programming language. As I said, it is a high level programming language. And what I mean by high level programming language, I'll show you. If we'll type A is equals to true, you see this true is now a Boolean data type, capital T RUE. I'm saying capital T for a reason. If you type small t, it will give you an error. Just see, it will give you an error when you run the program. Now, for instance, I'll run the program for you and show you. We need to wait for a few seconds. As you see, we got an error. But the good part of Python is it also tells you the possible fixes with the error. Error name true is not defined. Did you mean true? Capital T RUE. Yes, I mean capital T, because capital T refers to a data type. True is refers to a data type, which is Boolean. And that's what I meant with high level programming language. You need to make sure about capitals, smalls, and all of these things. It matters a lot in Python. The same thing is A is equals to 2, and if I'll say capital A is equals to false, now this just a second, capital A, now these two things are too different. This is a different variable and this is a different variable. But hold on, what is a variable? A variable is nothing but a container. Just like you see in your kitchen, you have multiple containers to store pulses, you have multiple containers to store spices, you have containers to store your dishes, and etc. So it's basically a container in which you store the things. And if you want to make a container or a variable, you can just write the name of it. You can write Arav is equals to, or just simply my var, or my var is nothing. You can name it literally anything. You can name it lion is equals to 1 2 3, just like this. And now you have made a variable which is called lion. Now in this variable, this is a container. Now you need to store something in this container. How can you do that? Just put is equals to and anything which you want to assign it. Now you can assign it with any type of data type. You can assign it with a function, but for now we'll use it as data type. We'll assign it the data types. The first data type I told you is integer. Assign an integer, just need to simply put is equals to and write whatever number you like. You can write 90, you can write minus 80, 0, basically any integer. And also it does not mean spaces, like after line you can give multiple spaces and you can write over here number. That's completely fine. Line, you can give multiple spaces over here, then it is equals to 1 2 3. That's also fine. So while assigning a variable, you don't need to worry about the spaces between and before and after is equals to. You can give it just to show you. This also works. Lion is equals to. This also works, and lion is equals to 1 2 3. This also works. So you don't need to make sure about the spaces. That's completely fine. But although there are certain places which you need to make sure about the spaces, I'll tell you where. This was about the data type integer, the simple numbers. Now, if you want to store a string, which is basically the text, you need to use double inverted commas. Or you may use simple inverted commas, you may ask the difference. It's nothing. You can use both of them. Both of them works well. You can say line is equals to Arav, line is equals to Rohan. You can see. Also, you can give it any variable, any text basically. Now you see the Visual Studio Code. Why I said we will be coding on Visual Studio Code. After I made a variable, what is equals to, I'll give the double inverted comma. Now see, it automatically completes the other side's inverted comma. And now in Python programming, if you start something, you need to end something. If you start a bracket, you need to end the bracket. If you are giving double brackets, multiple brackets, you need to end with multiple brackets. As you can see, 5 brackets over here, 5 brackets over here. If you are using square brackets, you need to end with square brackets. So this is the rule of Python. Otherwise, if you don't follow this, you will get some errors. Now to store the text, you can simply just use single inverted commas or double inverted comma and enter the text whatever you like. You can literally enter anything, no matter what. So this was about the string, and also let me tell you about the string. It is in string, it does not mean you can only store text, you can store number as well. But now you might be confused. Is equals to 1 2 3 2 3, and what's the difference? This is also 1 2 3, but this is also 1 2 3, but the data type is different. Beer is an integer, it contains integer, but lion contains a string. And let's suppose if you want to, there is another variable, this is also a container. And how to make a container or a variable? Name of the container, write is equals to, and store the thing. But what we are going to store? We are going to store beer. And now see the magic of Visual Studio Code. I do not type the whole thing, I just type the B, E, it just gives me the beer. I hit enter, and there you go, I got the beer. And now if you try to add, let's suppose 10 to it, and then print B. Control S, save, and then run the program. You see 133, nice. But now if you will type line over here, line, Lion, now see, you'll get error because you are adding a string with an integer, which is not possible. This is text, this is number. Although this is a number, but this is now a text because you wrote it inside a double inverted commas. What you can do is, if you type over here 1 2 3, now see the magic. It says 1 2 3 1 2 3 because it's adding two texts. First it types 1 2 3, then it types 1 2 3. You're getting it? I know you are getting it. And also let me tell you one thing. If you remove it, you can name anything like Arav, and you can name it Rohan, and then save it, run it. You see Arav Rohan. You see, it adds the integer. And don't try to do subtraction, it will not subtract, by the way. So Now you are clear with the difference between string and integer. Now there is another data type which is known as boolean or bool, which is nothing but true or false. Okay, so it's the same. You can assign it by a variable, just type true, true and false. Now, as I told you, Python is a high-level programming language. If you will do some mistake like this, false, it's now you know about the boolean or bool, which is basically true or false. And now we are gonna see about float. Float is another data type in Python. It's just basically the decimal value. It's like 2.001. It's a float. 3.22 or negative 0.22. Basically, it's a decimal value. But I don't know why who named it as float, but so now you know about the data types in Python, which are integers, boolean, string, float, and these are the main data types which you are going to work on. Though there are some other data types as well, but we are not looking into them for now. We are looking into the basics of Python, remember, okay? Now, you know how to make a variable. Name of the variable, type is equals to sign, commas, now assign a data type. Integer, it can be integer, any name, then string. Remember, and you can use this as well. They both works the same basically. It's on you what you like. I personally use double inverted commas. And when you give the double inverted comma, Python is able to identify, yes, this is a string and this is not any other data type. So this is a string. And now if you talk about the boolean, it's a boolean, true or false. False. Now if you talk about float, float is also written like integers, but they have decimal values, so they are known as float. The tree, print, name. Cut. Okay, now that you have learned how to make variables in Python and how to store the data types in Python, I want to tell you about how to import packages. So to import packages, it's very simple. I said now that you have learned how to make variables in Python, how to assign data types to them, now we are moving towards how to import libraries. So if you want to import a specific function from a library, let's suppose you can use from random import, let's suppose randit. You see, Visual Studio gives all the available options which you can import. Now if you use from random, then random is a module. There are certain modules which are pre-installed with Python, so you have to install them. But if you install some module, you can use the same from module name. Random is a module name. From module import the function which you want to import. If you want to import whole random, just simply type whole random, import random. Then you can use all the function available in random. Second, let's go Yeah. So now we move towards the conditionals, which is if, elif, and else. These are three conditional statements which you need to use while making some conditions, and these are simply the instructions to the program. Just like if, you can say like, if it's raining outside, take umbrella. If it is sunny outside, take sunglasses. Just like it. So now let me show you an example. Let's suppose we'll make a variable, and you know how to make a variable. Just name of the variable, and then give is equals to, then assign the data type. In our case, let it be 10. Now if a is greater than 10, okay, print is a function, and you might be wondering about those curly braces. I'll tell you what are those curly braces for, but let me show you one thing about the conditionals. Print a. Also before that, let me tell you about the print statement. It will be much better for you because we use print a lot. This. So print is a function. If you want to use a function, if you want to use a function in a, you can just type a dot the name of the function. You can select any one of the function by putting a dot. If you want to use the function, the function of a function, then it's like a dot a function, then dot the sub function, as you see. And the good thing is Visual Studio always have a list what you can use in functions. So now if you're using a function, remember a function always takes some input. Let's suppose print is a function, okay, and it takes bracket. Bracket is basically from here the function start and here the function ends, and in between what all inputs are required are given over here. And I'll tell you about how to make functions as well, and how to set how much input you need in a function. So in a function you actually need some input. So for print you can give as many inputs as you want. So like we can print a, and also I want to tell you the difference between printing a, c. Over here in Python it is showing as a box, which means simply a container. As I said, this is a container, this, and if I write comma and then curly braces a, c, this is a variable or a container which has a value of 10, which we assign it over here, and this is simply a, which is a text or a string, and we are telling Python to print out these two things, and we'll run it. You see, we give it as a and a, but this a is a variable, I'm repeating again, which has a value of 10, and this a is the text, so it is printing the text. I guess now you got the point on how to use the print. And you can, there are some functions like print, you can directly use it. You can just write it and give curly braces, and if you want to use like multiple inputs, give multiple inputs. If you're using multiple functions with multiple inputs, because see, there are some functions which do not require some inputs. There are functions which actually not requires input, they works without input, so you do not need to give input to them. You just leave like a dot as integer ratio, bracket open, bracket close, that's it. You just leave them like this and the function completes. But if a function requires an input, you basically give the input over here. Now let me tell you how you can give multiple inputs in a function. Let's suppose we are making a new variable. Let's say we are making a variable b, that is equals to, we want to make it int, integer, input, and the text. int input. Text here. See, just like print, input is also a function. Let me show you. If I remove this int and if I'm in, then print b. See, Visual Studio shows it a box in front of b because it recognizes as a container or a variable. Just click on it and run the program. Now you see text here. It is asking for an input. We can give any text, any number. Just simply hit enter, and now when it takes the input, we give the command to print the input, which is b. The input is stored in the b. We give the command to print all the things stored in the b over here. You are getting the point? I hope you are getting the point. Now, there are functions which requires multiple inputs. And if you want to do multiple inputs, you can always use a comma and then the input. You may use multiple comma like ABC, then multiple comma then ABC, just like this. Though it's not like this. B is equals to, let's suppose we want to give. Also, I want to introduce some of the functions like int and then str. It's given. This is not the syntax. I'm just telling you what are some of the functions which you can use. If I do at float, bracket open, bracket close, then it's internship, then it's bool function. So remember, forget bool. These three are the main conversion functions. If you enter anything in integer, it will convert it to the integer, and if you anything inside the string, it will take the input as only string. If you give it as float, as float. Let me show you something. B is equals to float function. Remember, there are functions which you don't need to give input in, but in float you need to give input, and what you need to convert to float. Let's we want to convert a, which is our variable which we have assigned a value of 10, which we want to convert as floats, which is a decimal number. Float is a decimal data type. You see, oh sorry, we forgot to print. We need to print the number, or actually print b. We actually print the both a comma b. Let's print both. See, first a, we assign the value of 10. Okay, it gave us 10, but next time we in the variable b, in the container b, we converted that variable to a float, and what is inside the variable? 10. So 10 is being converted to the float. What is the float? A decimal number. And the next line, we first printed a, then there's a comma. That means this is next thing, the next input, and there it is. Now you learned how to give inputs in a function. Now, if you want to use multiple functions, as I said, you can always use using dot function name, actually dot and function name, and then again the dot and the function name dot. So these benefits are there for this thing. That's how you can use a function. And now if you want to use multiple functions which requires multiple inputs, just like b is equals to int. You know, integer means only integers. If something is input other than integer, if a string is given to it, it would give error. If a float is given to it, it would remove all the decimal values and it will only keep the main value. And if you are using a function to take the input, it will only take the input in integer, int input. And now you don't need to type print over here, just type like your input here. See, b is not equals to this text. Okay, b is not equals to this text. This text will be shown to our user, and when user will enter something into it, then that thing will be stored into b, and then just print b. Print b. Now you might be getting why we are not using curly braces for b over here, because we want to print the variable b, not the string b. Save it and then run. See, it is asking for our input. We can give it 45.0 just to show you it's being converted to integer, as I said. But now see one thing, we get an error. It's very interesting. We have set the input type to integer. If we enter anything other than integer, it will give us error. And now see, if I run it again and if I enter the integer, it will store the value. Now this time I'll store 45 and number like 35. It prints 35, and that's what we actually meant. See, take an input and then print that input. So now we can move towards the conditionals. I know I am going a bit too fast, but I am giving you an overview of Python programming, and in the end I'll also tell you how to do planning before you write the program so that you can write it flawlessly. I'll tell you how programmers decide how to write programs, which package to install. I'll tell you everything in the end, but before that let me tell you about the conditionals quickly. So there are three conditional statements: if, elif and else. Whenever you are starting a condition, you first of all, in the first time, you always use if. If a is equals to 10. You might be wondering why I wrote is equals to twice, but hold on. Print a, print, we want to print text now. Okay, we don't want to print number, we want to print text. A is equals to 10. Also, if you want, you can remove a is equals to and then just write comma, then simply type 10. Then it will also do the same. It will say a is equals to, let me just show you. If you run it, the input over here, it's the, I'll just remove this line, but just simply keep, it says a is equals to 10. See, we did not okay, we actually write a 10, so it says 10, but if we write the a as well, it should give us the same output. Again, I forgot to remove this line, it was unnecessary. It's again saying a is equal to 10, and that's what we actually wanted to say. Good. Though we are just writing 10 over here for convenience, not a string. Now you know this is a string and this is basically an integer. So I'll remove this it's unnecessary line of code over here in the program. Now if you are writing if conditionals for the first time in your program, then you need to use if. Then after every condition you add, you will be using elif. Elif a is greater than 10, then print a is greater than 10, 10. And now if you are typing, if you want to add another condition, you need to again enter elif, and you will enter elif until you reach the last step. Elif a is smaller than 10. See, spaces over here is not required. You can do this as well. See, doesn't matter. See, enter. It just works fine. Just type print into the function. That's how it is. Okay, don't worry about spaces over here, but you cannot give spaces after print. It will give the error. So you can remove the spaces from over here and over here. If you want, you can keep it, no issue. That's not an issue. And you can just simply type A is smaller than 10. Okay, and we can actually ask the user to give the input. What we can go int input enter enter number. So now our user will give the input and that value will be stored, and then we'll check whether if A is equals to 10. See why I gave double equals to. Equals to means assigning a value. If you will type A is equals to 10, that means you are assigning the value to 10, that is 10. If you are writing equals to, that means you are assigning a value to A, that is 10. By the way, you cannot assign a value in a condition. You can assign it before a condition. Now if you want to check whether if A is equal to 10 or not, use double is equals to. Is equals to means is it equals to or 10 or not. If it is not, it will not follow these conditions. Elif, A is greater than 10? No. If it is not, it will not run this. Elif, A is smaller than 10. If it is, then it will run this line of code. We'll save it and we'll run it. It's asking for an input. We are giving it input as, let's suppose, 9. It's saying B is not defined. Where is B? Print B. Oh, sorry. We actually removed that line of code. We forgot to remove this as well, the unnecessary line of code. Yeah, then we'll simply type 9 and hit enter. A is smaller than 10. As I said, this condition was false, this condition was false, and this condition was true. A is smaller than 10, so this command ran. And you might be seeing spaces. When you enter it, it uses spaces of 4 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and this is called indentation, by the way. It defines in which function, in which condition, in which loop you are in. Let's suppose if you write the condition in a condition, if you want to check if A is smaller than 10, then you will check if A is equals to 9. I told you earlier, double is equals to means we are checking if A is equals to 9 or not. Single is equals to means we are assigning a value or not. See, here we have 8 spaces, 4 over here and 4 over here. If we write the statement over here after 4 spaces, so that would run after this condition is true. But if we write something in after 8 spaces, which is under this conditions, it would only run when this is true. So if you want to give the indentation as well, let's suppose over here, instead of just typing spaces a lot of time, just like this and then this, you can just simply hit tab. You are in the function. Tab again, tab, you are in the function, backspace, you are under now this condition. Okay, we'll just remove it, it's unnecessary. And now the last condition, which is else. Now see what is left. We have checked is equals to if A is equals to 10 or not. If A is greater than 10, now instead of writing if A is smaller than 10, we can just simply write else. Print A is smaller than 10. Remember, else is used when all of the above conditions are not true, then finally this will run. You need to use it carefully because sometimes you do not need to run the conditions always. Simply you it might be possible then you will only use if once, and then you continue with your program, like then you will write b is equals to something like that. Again, the indentation problem. See, now else will only run when these conditions are false. Let me show you once again. Control S save. By the way, I enable auto save. I guess. There we go. Enter a number. We'll enter 9. It's smaller than 10, so it runs. See, it first saw all the conditions are above or false, so it is run else. Also, there might be a condition when you need to check. You can also write if when the conditions are different, when it's not related to A. Like there is a separate condition which we will check for B. B is 5. If B is equals to 5, then print B is 5. We'll run the program. Enter the number. It's for the first program. We run 10. See, it says A is equals to 10. This condition got true, and this condition got true. See, if I would have used the elif instead of this program, this condition wouldn't have run. See, now if I run it again, for number, I'll give it as 10 as a number. 10. See, because it says one of the condition is fulfilled. Now I do not need to check other conditions, so it skips them. But if you want to also check this condition, you can remove the elif and you can use the if. That creates a different condition, and now both of them will run. And you see, we'll enter 10. You see, both of the conditions are fine. A is equals to 10 and b is equals to 5 as we have declared. And double is equals to, once again I'm telling you, means it is equals to b. I mean it is equals to 5, right? So I hope you have got the very basics of the Python. Although there are other basics like loops there, and these are basically conditionals. Like these are like exclamation which is not equals to, and there are a lot of them which is greater than is equals to, they are smaller than is equals to, and these are all the things. But for now, this is it, and thank you for before leaving, I want to tell you how you actually decide how to write a program in Python, because you will do a proper planning while write. I'll open or you can plan on. I'll use paint and I'll click on open, and I'll also show you how to make a program. I'll make this program, so let's see what we can make. We can make a simple calculator. Okay, so this is our terminal, and there will be some sort of text which is saying welcome to our terminal. Then there will be text which says press 1 if you want to add. See, first of all they'll ask for your first number, and whatever number user gives, like it gives 5, and they'll ask for the second number. Let's suppose user give 10, and now we'll give them the set of instructions what they can use. Like if they'll press 1, that would be for multiplication. If they press 2, that would be for division. And in the end, we can get an input. We can get I and P, and basically this is also an input I and P. And over here, what we can do, actually we can all the instructions, now user can enter what he want to perform on these two numbers. So if a user enters 1, which we can assign it to like add, we can actually then check if this thing, we'll give it a name, like we can give it like A. If a is equals to 1, then add these two numbers, 5 plus whatever the number it is. Okay, and then we'll type elif, then we'll check all the conditions, and that's how we can make a simple calculator. And this is the basic planning. And whenever you make a new program, you need to do the planning always. That's because it helps you a lot and it makes your vision clear what you actually want to build. So I'll just rub it off. That's what I'm using. I'll just simply remove it. Yeah, so now we have planned, we are making a simple calculator, and what we need to first of all welcome the user, then we need to ask for the first number, then for the second number, then we need to print some of the statement asking user, telling user the instruction which he can use to do the operations. Then we need to check what input user gave, and then we need to add or subtract or multiply the numbers accordingly. So let's get started. Simple. We'll open Visual Studio Code, or simply Visual Studio Code, and hit enter. Here you go. Open a file. It says to select a file. Open a folder. There we go, tutorial. Select the folder, and now you know how to make a Python file. We will not waste more time on that. For it to load, wait for a few seconds. There we go. We'll make a new Python file. We will name it as simple underscore calculator.py. Hit enter. We got our Python file. Yeah, there we go. So what are the things we need to do? We need to welcome the user. So print now welcome to simple calculator, which welcome to simple calculator. And then what to do, we will take in two inputs from the user. So num1 is equals to, as I said, you don't know how to make a variable. Just name of the variable is equals to assign the value to it. It is not necessary you will assign a data type. You can assign function as well. So we are actually assigning a function which is input. And if you might be wondering how I remember all these functions, then it's very simple. If you want to also remember this function, Python is a great library support, documentation support. If you search Python documentation, let's suppose this is the documentations you can read. There are a lot of functions like library references, extended Python, blah 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 blah. So you can actually refer to documentation. Let's suppose you are using Panda. Python pandas functions. So you can see general functions to write data. Pandas 2.0. You see all the important functions. It also tells you what the function does, so you can always refer to it, and it's become very handy. And also let me tell you one thing, when the first time you read the program, you will always need to use the documentation. The second time you will again need the documentation. Third time you will again need the documentation. But now you will when you will complete a lot of projects in the same type of library, now at that point of time you will have a good memory of functions, so then you will not need to look in the documentation all the time. It will be in your mind, so you can directly program without looking into it. But for the first time you can always refer to them, and it's looking to the documentation is not a bad thing. All the programmers always looks, because there are millions of functions in Python you can use, and nobody can remember these millions of functions. So feel free to use the documentation. It's very easy to use. I told you how to use the function. So yeah, let's continue with the program. Also, as I said, Python is a high-level programming language, so make sure you don't do these mistakes. P was capital, in print P is small. Okay. Input. Enter the first number. I am making a simple program. I am not including any library, just so that you do not get confused. It takes argument. Also, the input which functions I take is called an argument. So then when you will take the input, then you need to print these things. You want to print, press 1 to add. You can, let me tell you another feature of Visual Studio Code. Instead of typing similar things again and again, you can press on Alt. You can just get just a second. And save. Let's hit enter. Then you can press Alt, and then whenever you press, you will get multiple cursors just like this, and see the magic. Just see by yourself. Press 2. Then now you can modify it. 2, 3, 4. Actually, forward with the space. Set. Multiply. Divide. Now our code will print these things, and then when we print these things, we need to take another input to get the input from the user, whether it takes 1, 2. So for the input, we can say user underscore inp. You can name it anything. You can name it ABC. Let me name it ABC. Okay, so that you don't get confused. You can name it as ABC. Why not ABC? ABC. But I always recommend to give some reasonable name. Let's suppose you can give it user underscore inp. But just to show you, you can give any name. I'm using ABC. ABC is equals to, we need to take the input once again, but this time we need to take the int input because we do not want user to add text over this, so that our program will not crash. Input into input, we'll take argument, enter the number, what operation you want to perform. There we go. Now I told you about the conditional, so we are not going to use loop functions, though you can make functions for this program as well. You can import Tinker, and you can make GUI for the calculator. You can make a proper calculator, but that will be too advanced for now. So we are gonna continue with basic Python, basic text-based Python, basic text-based input and all those things. And with, of course, I told you about if else, so we are gonna if else in this program. So if ABC, I told you, is equals to, it is to check whether something is equals to or not. ABC is equals to 1, then pass. For now I'm just typing pass. I'll enter the operations later on. If ABC is equals to 2, pass. If ABC is equals to 3, then again pass. Then if ABC is equals to 4, sorry, whatever is equals to 4, then pass. And now in the end, if user enters number from 1 to 4, then it will do the following task. I have written pass, but we'll modify it. Else, if user does not give the input which we want, the desired input, which is between 1 to 4, we're gonna show an error. So else, while writing else, you don't need to give any statement. Just type else and just the semicolon and enter. And yes, whenever you end a function, you need to give the semicolon to it. Okay. So else, let's suppose we'll print invalid input. Give input between 1 to 4. There we go. And now what we said one should do, one should add. Okay, so print num1 plus num2. And now once again, if you're wondering what is num1 and num2, num1 and num2 are the variable, are the containers in which user will store their value. If user gives 20, so the value of this container will be 20. The 20 will be stored in this container. So we need to add the value in container 1 and then the container 2. Then we need to print that value. And we can give comma just to make it more better. We can give a text as also. Your answer, ANSWER, your answer is the answer is num1 plus num2. And then with the pass we can type print, and we can do the same, your answer, comma, again what was the 2 for? 2 for subtraction. So num1 minus num2 as it's for subtraction. And in the third one was for multiplication. So for multiplication, just simply again once again print, enter your answer. Or wait a second, I can do one more thing. In this print, I press Alt and type print. That your answer is, there we go, num1 into num2, comma, num1 into num2. There we go. This time not multiply, actually divide. So the divide symbol, it should work fine. Work absolutely fine. Yeah. There we go. Now testing time. Finger crossed. Let's see. As well. Yes. Welcome to Simple Calculator. Enter the first number. So let's suppose we enter 10. So the second number, we enter 10 once again. Press 1 to add, press 2 to subtract, press 3. And if you are seeing this unnecessary spaces, that's because you give spaces while typing it. Just see like this. Here's space and here's not. So you can make sure about that, the spaces. What operation you want to perform? Okay, if we enter 1, it should add the number. So if we would enter 1, why it's not taking integer? Okay, so there was an issue. We need to define it as integer or not integer. Yeah, we can get it done with integer, or we can actually wait. Okay, so as you can see, it's giving us 10 plus 10. It's basically means it's adding 2 strings, not integers. So we need to convert it into integers. So what I told you, what was the function? Int, then int, and once again int. There we go. We'll save it. Save is enabled, good. And then let's try once again. Okay. Welcome to the enter the number. 10, this time 1. There we go. 20. 10 plus 10 is equals to 20. There we have it. Now let's try something weird. Enter the number. We'll enter 10. The number 10. Okay. Now it says enter 1 2 3 4, but we'll enter a random number. Not 1 2 3 4. Let's suppose we enter 5, which is not listed over here. See? Invalid input, give the input between 1 to 4, and that's how we make a program, how we plan a program, and how we make it. Thank you everyone for watching. This video. I appreciate your time and patience. Thanks a lot.